Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to part 2 of our Transformational Care series, Transformational Care and GCF. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Monica.
Hello.
Maria.
Hello.
Anna-Karin.
Hi.
And our special guest today, Sthembile Mnqayi.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Sthembile. Sthembile, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Sthembile Mnqayi. I'm a social worker here at Give a Child and Family Africa. I have been with GCF for 5 years now. I've been in the field of social work for maximum 10 years, doing statutory casework, program management, casework, group work, working with children in schools, in the community, foster parents, temporary safe care. Yeah, I guess the works of social work.
Oh, great. Thank you, Sthembile. Thank you for joining us today. So, as always, the first question is for you, Monica. So, as I understand it, it was never GCF's intention to become a residential care facility for children. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The whole idea was to look at families and how to really work with nurturing care with families and trying to help the families to really be able to care better for their children. However, there was a need, also because of the whole HIV and AIDS in the 80s, there was the need for special emergency care in certain situations. Although we had mothers and children, and in some cases even fathers, once we started wanting to register, we then weren't allowed to have the parents and the children in the same place. So we then had to make a decision as to what we're going to do. And we realized that, well, we would rather work with the children and help the children, and then we would be able to get the children back with the families and work with the families at the same time. So, and the idea was that they would then only stay for 2 months, 6 months at maximum. And there was no such thing for a non-profit organization to be a shelter or a place of care like that. You had to register as a children's home. So it took us 7 years to convince the authorities that we do not want to be a children's home. We want to be a temporary safe care, which we were then able to do after 7 years. But that also then meant that we weren't allowed to have the families on the property. So we started working then because we really believe that children should be in secure families and with nurturing care. So we then had to work with the family separate to the children. And that was, but the problem was that the children were stuck in the system. And in a sense, we became a little bit like babysitters here, you know, and we felt that that's not what this was intended for. And we tried all these years to bring change into that situation. And we've eventually got to the point that we realized, no, this has become too much institutional care. It's not what we intended. It's not what we want. And so we've had to make this very, very clear decision and decisive move towards this. Although we temporary safe care, we still want to work better with the family, for the children's best to be in the community.
So thank you, Monica. So it's quite clear that, you know, GCF's never really wanted to have this institutional-based type of care. So, Anna-Karin, the next question is for you. So bearing in mind that we are changing away from the institutional care and into a transformed system of care, is there a closing date whereby all the children have to be moved out of the centre?
No, we don't have a closing date for that, but we have a closing date for the admissions of children coming into the centre. So what's going to happen then to the children that are already here after the closing date, if we say so? So it doesn't mean that GCF is closing. That's not what we are saying. But the children will remain as long as the case manager, which is the external social worker, and our residential social worker, which is not you, but Hazel and somebody else. They will together work towards reunification with their biological family, if it's the parents, the grandparents, an aunt, or somebody else in their family environment. But of course, a lot of preparation needs to take place. For the parents, means that they need to do one of our parenting skills trainings with focus on reunification services. It means that they might have to be referred to other services that we maybe cannot offer, but we know who can help them. It's home visits that are done and so on. And then we also have the children, of course, that are in the center already. they will continue to get the counseling that they need to deal with the challenges they have been through. Maybe they are still going through things that they need to deal with. So that's going to happen. Plus that they're going to be prepared to go back home, which also includes home visits during the weekends, maybe in the holidays and so on, until they're all prepared. The family needs to be prepared, and the child. But sometimes there are children that cannot go back home for different reasons. Maybe we don't even know where the parents are because the child has been abandoned. But it can also be a child where the parents are not willing to change or cannot change for different reasons. And those children, again, together with the case manager, we will then place them in one of our families that have gone through the foster care process. So people that are trained, they are screened, and they are ready to care for children that are not their own. Which, yeah, that will happen. And I mean, when the children are in there, they will be in support groups. The parents will be in the support groups. Foster parents. Okay. There's a lot of parenting talking.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have things in place already, and this will happen with these children also, but we cannot rush it. Still must be quality care, quality work that we do.
So what is quite clear is there's no situation here where the doors close and the children are pushed out and they just leave.
No, not at all, because we always want the best for the child. So their well-being must be considered. Yes. And the well-being for one child might not be the well-being for another.
Okay, so that's it's good to note. So what we take from this is there are two sets of children. So we have the set of children that is already in the center currently, and the processes will be followed. But then, and my next question is going to be for you, Sthembile. So once we stop, as you mentioned, AK, once we put the date on and we stopped the intake of children, the admission of children. So Sthembile, the next question is then, so what happens to the children that would have been admitted to the center? What happens to those children now?
Oh, okay, Stephen. What would happen to the children that would have come into the center is that they would go now into family-based care with our emergency safety care parents. So GCF is running the program of having the parents in the community as opposed as having children being placed in an institution. So the program of alternative care is reforming the care systems where we are moving away from institutionalization, we're going into deinstitutionalization of children, moving into community-based care. So the role of the emergency safety care parents becomes very important because their role is to support, it is to give community-based care, individualized care for the children that have been placed in their care because they've been found to have been neglected, abused, and removed from their primary residence. But what is beautiful about the program is that it allows the child to stay within the community. It may be a different setting, but the idea that what is more secure for the child is that the trees that they saw are still there. So as opposed to being in an institution, so we want children to remain in the community. So it benefits the child, and also it is preventative in nature. We're looking at primary interventions. How best can we stop the influx of children into institutions? We use what we have, community. We use what we have, families. So children are placed with families, secure families. But we cannot go on recruiting parents endlessly. We have to have a certain number of parents that we will closely monitor so that we know that the program is working. That is why we are saying it out there to say the program is working. We have to have a set amount of parents that will monitor, provide adequate care and support to the parent, to the child as well, so that we have families that are secure and are willing to take care of children that have been found in risk of health and need protection.
Thank you very much, Sthembile. That's really awesome to hear. So that we'll come back to you. And the next question really is around, we've spoken a little bit about the children and the services that the children you receive within the center. So Maria, the next question is for you from HR. What does this mean for some of the staff that provide specialist services to the children, such as perhaps the nurse or the therapy assistant? What does it mean for them?
Steve, because GCF always has the whole holistic approach towards children, and obviously we cannot jeopardize that because the children are not admitted in the center. We will still render those same services in the community when they are with the temporary safe care parents. So, for example, at admission at the center, our nurse is doing assessment, medical assessment of the child that is admitted. Same happens with the temporary safe care parent. The nurse goes now out because now the child obviously is not here. The child is with a family, so the nurse goes to that family, does the same assessment. There is no change in that. So we continue those services. And once in the 3 months, she would do a follow-up, unless there obviously is a need for further care. Then either she monitors closer or there are referrals, because obviously you cannot do everything yourself. But there is no difference really from when a child would be here. It's the same when it comes to therapy. It's important. All the children that is removed from the family, they are traumatized. Something has happened to the child, what makes them not to be able to stay longer where they are, with the caregivers, with the parents. So obviously you have to do something with those children as well. If they are in the institution, they get therapy and counseling. Same must happen in the community. You still have to work with the child, build up resilience, deal with whatever trauma the child has gone through. So there is no difference in that sense. But obviously the service rendered will not per se be at the center. It will be in the community. Where possible, maybe the children can come in, but otherwise, if not, it will be like a home visit, like what a social worker is doing at home visits. So that will be the task of the therapist assistant and the nurse as well, just to go out there.
As I understand it, it is really much about taking the services out to the children, keeping the children in a family, in an environment where their environment is not disturbed. We are moving the services out to them. It sounds that, I mean, it's really good. It's you know, it feeds into the GCF, what we want to do of moving totally into the community.
Can I add something? I don't think you mentioned that, Sthembile, is that children in an emergency parent setting, the aim there is also reunification with the biological family. So it's not like the child's going to remain there forever. But the social workers are still going to work with the family at home. So the opportunity for the child to move home where possible will actually happen.
That's why the foster families are needed.
Exactly.
Because the family can't go back, then they go to foster care.
So the GCF systems or processes are still very much the same.
Okay. Just being rendered in a community-based and a family-based setting rather than institutional care. Because as we know from the previous discussions, institutional care is not the best answer for children. No. Families are.
Yeah, exactly.
So AK, thank you. And the next question is for you anyway. So Sthembile mentioned earlier that we don't want to carry on recruiting huge numbers of emergency parents. Do we have another strategy in mind? Do we just carry on recruiting, or do we have another strategy?
We have another strategy in mind, but it's nothing new. Again, we're talking preventative work, which we have done for many, many years in different ways. But we're already doing preventative work, but we want to expand. We want to do much more to prevent that children are removed from their family environment to emergency parents also, because they should stay when possible in their own families. So what we are doing, and we want to develop, we have a program already that is called Parenting for Life, which means that we do parenting skills training with parents in the community that they already have children. And there you learn everything from child development to children and trauma to parenting and mental health. It's all different kind of things that are important. But also through this program, you have other opportunities to do other trainings that we offer, or when necessary, you can be referred to services that we might not have, whatever that can be. We also have something called a help desk, which is a telephonic help desk service where a social worker is answering phone calls, where anyone can phone in with their family challenges just to get help. Sometimes it's enough just with a phone call and some guidance over the phone. Sometimes we need to do a home visit and sometimes we need to do a referral. So again, we can assist in that way. Then we have other trainings when we focus on other organizations. It can be religious or traditional leaders. It can be school environments, and that is child safeguarding. It's justice for children and protective behaviors, where we want people to stand up for children, more or less, just to take responsibility for, because child protection, we always say this, child protection is everybody's business. So if we can do that together, because DCF cannot do everything by ourselves, but together we can stand up for children and make their lives better.
Absolutely.
And other things that we do, our community workers are already doing this. We do a lot of awarenesses in the communities. It can be schools and churches, at a clinic, it can be anywhere where parents are. Talking about different topics that is relevant for child protection, just to make the safety around, like the safety network around the child much better and stronger. With the aim, again, the children will not be removed because they have everything they need at home and the services that they need are available for them.
So if I get it right, the emergency parents is not the end goal. The end goal is actually to not need those parents in the first place, because there is preventative work services are available to stop families from breaking down, to stop children from needing to be removed in the first place anyway. So thank you, AK.
Yes,
thank you for that.
and as we said, we want to do this much more.
Yes.
Together with the stakeholders in the communities.
We talk about saturating the community.
Yeah.
This is such a nice word.
Yeah.
The
Saturated prevention,
Absolutely.
So we want to saturate the community, making sure that all these services are everywhere.
So that is our strategy, and I'm sure it will be developed more over time.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much for that. But something that you mentioned in there, you spoke about the foster parents being trained, okay? And the biological parents, let's say, the parents that the children return to, they are trained. My question, Sthembile, then would be for you. So with the emergency safety parents, what training and support do those parents get?
With the emergency parents would start from the beginning, Stephen, where we would screen them, have them assessed, have them approved. They must be found to be fit and proper to care for children. So then we'll go through a series of many checkups to ensure that the support that we give to the right candidate that can offer the supportive care to the children. So we'll check their name against the National Child Protection Register to see if they are not registered as pedophiles, as perpetrators, and also the South African Police Services will name clearance to see if there's any previous conviction, any domestic violence. We know that the country is full of domestic violence cases, and it also affects children as well. So we want to know that the families that we are supporting and that we have in the database are fit and proper to work with children. So once we have all of our assessment done, our medical assessment, our analysis of the home, household assessment, and then we've got children placed in the home, that is where we provide support services. The parents are trained. The training is an ongoing training because there's new information out there every day. AK spoke about safeguarding, which is something new in our country that GCF is running with now. So this is what we are bringing out there to say the safeguarding of children is very important, and our temporary safe care parents as well have to be geared up. They have to be in the know of the children's rights, the Children's Act. What is in the best interest of the child? How can they advocate for children to be placed into community without having to wait for other organizations such as GCF? So those are the support services that we give. Those are the empowering services, the awareness that we are giving out there. And then we go into individualized services now. Maria spoke about the nurse, the therapist, the education department, where the child placed has to go to school. If there's an ECD center nearby, the child has to be in a partial care center. So the services that would normally give out to a child placed in an institution, it is now community-based services. It is now community-based support. We are forming community-based support structures within their own community. You find that there's so many resources out there, but community members are not aware. Because when we do the program, we do a mapping of services. What services are out there? What is around you that you can make use of? So that we go into all those doors, we make the clinic nearby to be aware that there is a safety parent. When she comes in, she's supposed to be treated with emergency care because she's caring for a child that needs protection. So those are the support systems and structures that we build around our temporary safe care, or better known as emergency safety care parents.
Sthembile, thank you very much. And it sounds like it's a lot of work, but it sounds really absolutely worthwhile work. I think, you know, and the focus again is around the community, is the community nature of it. It's more normal for children than being in the center. So when you've spoken about the parents, and there's a lot of capacity building that goes into those parents. So my next question is for you, Maria. So the emergency parents that Sthembile has been speaking about, they sound like special people. So where do we find those people? How do we find them? Where do we find them?
We use the same strategy as what we do with foster parents, because we have experience with how do you recruit foster parents, and we sort of do that at the same way with safety parents. We go to churches, to women's groups, to clinics, where you find a group of people where you can fairly easily give an information session, just to bring the word out, what is a temporary safe care parents? Because before you start to sign up for something, you will need to know what you're in for. So to explain what is the whole idea around it, where possible, we have a PowerPoint presentation, and otherwise it's just like the soapbox in the middle and you just share it. And people that is interested can come forward, and obviously then there is more an individual process happening. But yeah, we go out in the communities and try to find where there is. And like with the foster parents, we run that program for 20 years. I mean, often you see there is somebody comes to job, but my neighbor is a foster parent and I'm not also interested. So you're going to have referrals. And I mean, our emergency safety parents, it is a fairly new program for GCF. So, but I would believe in time to come, we will receive those kind of referrals also through the system of the existing parents. I think it's happening already.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's happening already.
And what's great about it is, as you mentioned, Maria, is that it utilizes the same systems that we've been using for foster care. So those people, you know, the channels know us. The recruitment is following. It's not a brand new thing. It's something that we've got some experience at.
And I think the trust factor is there. You know, I think in the communities, the trust is there. I mean, because we work with the traditional structures and all that in the community, we have access to the people, and we've built up a good name, I think, in the community where we really are trusted in when we say we're going to do something, we do it, and that's really good. And the nice thing with referrals is as well, people already know because they have heard firsthand what foster care is about, what emergency safety parent is about. So it makes it, I would think, also easier to explain the whole process around it, because after all, also referrals, so they have seen how does that function in reality.
And I think one of the really great things for GCF, as we touched on, is the fact that it's not only us out there recruiting. There are community members recruiting on our behalf.
Exactly.
You know, they're not really, they believe in what we're doing. They know what we're trying to do, and they are referring. I think that's a really,
and it might be the same as foster care, because there's many social workers in the other offices, the external offices that are referring. We have this parent, this person that wants to be screened. It could actually be the same with them also.
Yeah, it is the same with emergency safety care parents as well. You get foster parents who want to be emergency safety care parents as well. So the referral systems.
Thank you so much for that. And I think what is quite clear out of this process, and hopefully it's clear for everybody at home, is that it's not just anybody that comes and volunteers and then they become an emergency safety care parent. There is a lot of things that happen between your desire to do that and actually being kind of certified, ready to receive a child. There's a lot that's very important.
Could be a couple of months even, I mean, if not more.
More, depends on how many people living at home, because you
Exactly.
need to focus on every single person in the household to make sure the child will be safe there.
because the best interest of the child
Exactly.
is the principal interest for us.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you very much for that. Monica, the next question, well, kind of the last question is for you. So from the GCF perspective, we've heard a lot about support and things we're doing, but from an organizational perspective, from the GCF perspective, what is some of the support that we need to make this happen?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and my thing is, I feel like we're out of our comfort zone. We're really moving out of our comfort zone. We've been in the comfort zone with regards to this, and but the idea of what we're doing is obviously in the best interest of children, and so we have to look at that. We have to look at what we're doing is because children are going to be better cared for, and we really believe that. But the financial situation doesn't change. In fact, it's going to increase. The need is going to increase because now especially in the first 3 years, as we're going through a process, we have to do what they call transitional funding, where you sort of still running the center, because we were talking about we don't just throw the children out. So we've still got this running. We've got the safety parent program running. We've got to make sure that the safety parents, that program is working before we can actually sort of move everything into that aspect. So therefore we having to look at what we call parallel funding or transitional funding, and that is to run both programs effectively. And so this is really going to be something that we would need everyone's support. Government has limited to assistance because some of their processes haven't even caught up. I think again, it feels like we're spearheading this. We're gaining the forerunners of something here, because when we've spoken to government, there's that little bit of like, okay, well, we're not quite sure how this will work, and so we are having to pilot this. We're having to show them this, like we did with foster care. Now they're quite happy with the fact that foster care can work the way it's working, and that we've done a good job with foster care. And in fact, we've worked with foster care in 10 other countries, and done some training and conferences and things. The same now is we've got temporary safe care, and we're feeling like we need to pilot this, we need to do this. Even though we are a temporary safe care, people say that, don't you deinstitutionalize institutions? Yes, we do, and that's where we're going to go, but we are having to show by example. So financially, we are going to be needing more money. And we are going to be needing, looking at structures, remodeling the structure a little bit. So there will be changes. And that's what I said, it feels like we're going to move a little bit out of our comfort zone, because we have to look at the structures that we've had might not necessarily be the same structures we will be using in time to come. But we're not throwing the children out with the bathwater or anything like that. We're basically making sure that the care that we're providing there will be good before this changes into only that. So that is, and I mean, next time we're going to hear more about how we plan to do it and the cost of it and all that sort of thing, because we've done a costing on the whole thing, and we're just hoping that we're going to get everyone to continue supporting us, because now we really need to be able to show that this is doable.
So for those of you that are at home, don't miss our next one. The next one is the cost of transformational care. It's very important that you attend that one. And that will be we are doing that towards the end of January next year, after December and holidays. So Monica, thank you very much for that. Thank you. I want to close off with one thing now for everyone. Well, if there's one thing that you want people at home to know about this process, what would it be? And I'm going to start with Anna-Karin first.
I would say that preventative work is vital. To make a change in the community, we need to think preventative, and we need to do preventative. So that is what I want to leave everybody with.
Preventative.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna-Karin. Sthembile.
For me, it is important to know that, for us to know that this cannot work without the support. It cannot work without community-based support.
Thank you, Sthembile. Maria?
If I think of the whole process where we're in, then I would think really from the perspective of the child. To make that a child is thriving in life, it really needs to have individual care, responsive care, not just making sure the child gets fed, etc., but really individual responsive care based on the individual needs of the child.
So in a family.
In a family, because in an institution, how good it is, how good the caregivers are, it's not a household, you are one of many. So that individualism is not possible even with the best intentions. That is only possible small scale, which is your family setting.
Thank you, Maria. Monica.
Yeah, for me, it's about the hope. You know, the hope for families who are struggling. So the preventative work of walking out of that family when you've been with them, then you leave them with that ray of hope. There is change. I can change. There is options. I have options. And for the children, the hope of a future, the hope of life, the hope of being in a community, not having to sit here and think, oh, you know, watching all these other children come and go, and I'm not getting left behind because I don't have a family, you know, to go to. So, you know, and for the children who's sitting here for 2-3 years, my heart aches because it feels like it's hopeless for them. So what I want to see in this is that we provide hope for families, we provide hope for children.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please keep an eye out for the link for the next one that will, as I mentioned, towards the end of January, where we won't have Sthembile with us, but we will have another special guest that will be assisting us and talking more about the cost of transformational care. Thank you very much and have a good day.